I paid off my parents' mortgage, then found out I wasn't in the will. Mom asked for my bonus like it was nothing. I didn't argue. I made one move they never saw coming. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. The photo shouldn't have meant anything. Just pixels and posture. A smile I'd seen too many times to misread. David's grin was the kind he reserved for things he believed he'd earned, even when he hadn't. Behind him, Mom's hand rested gently on Dad's arm, their matching expressions saying everything before my eyes reached the caption. Grateful to carry the legacy forward. At first, I stared, not understanding. Then I read it again, and again. My name was nowhere, not in the caption, not in the legal papers I requested that week, not even in a footnote. It felt like a dull ache behind the ribs, slow, spreading, familiar. I told myself there had to be a mistake. Maybe an amendment hadn't been filed. Maybe my parents just forgot to update it. But it wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. A deliberate one. I remembered the way my dad's voice cracked the day I called to say the wire had gone through. He had thanked me then, briefly, like a neighbor returning borrowed sugar. Nothing more. No acknowledgement that I had handed over nearly every cent of my bonus, the reward of years spent coding late into the night, missing holidays, pushing product deadlines because I wanted to give something back. I had kept the screenshots, not for proof, not for leverage, but because part of me needed to believe that moment mattered, that someone had noticed. Now I looked at them differently. The confirmation email, the bank alert, the message from Mom with a single red heart. That was the sum total of what I had meant to them. A silent transaction. And now, a quiet erasure. The house still stood, but something in me collapsed. The living room hadn't changed much. Same faded throw pillows, same photo wall of birthdays and graduations. All of them stopped at David's wedding. I stood there, as if planted in memory, watching my mother look at me like I was a stranger who had shown up to the wrong address. "You moved away," she repeated, her voice light but brittle, like she was explaining a forgotten RSVP. "You always seemed separate." Separate. I had to bite my tongue to stop from laughing. I remembered flying across the country with a fever just to make Dad's surgery, calling every night the week Grandma died because Mom didn't feel like talking to anyone else. But sure, separate. I shifted my weight and kept my voice level. "I just paid off this house." Her lips pressed together, then curved into something that tried to pass for sympathy. That was a gift, wasn't it? A gift. The word dropped between us like a blade. Dad hadn't moved since I walked in. His eyes were fixed on the floor, hands folded in a way that felt rehearsed. Silent compliance wrapped in avoidance. And that's when she said it. Soft, casual, like she was ordering groceries. "Now that your job's going well, would you consider helping with the property taxes? And maybe your bonus, just until David gets on his feet." There it was, laid bare. No shame, no hesitation. I wasn't a son. I was a wallet. The shock didn't last this time. It dissolved quickly, burned out by the slow rising heat of something sharper, something colder. I realized then it wasn't just oversight. It was intention. They had chosen their legacy, and it didn't include me. So I nodded. Not yes. Just understanding. The kind that doesn't need to be spoken. The kind that turns love into something else. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't demand apologies. I left their house with silence clinging to my back like smoke, but I carried the weight of every word spoken there. It didn't take long for that weight to harden into something sharper, something actionable. I opened my laptop that same night, pored over every document, The wire confirmation, the mortgage payment history, the emails I'd sent confirming the payoff. Every digital breadcrumb, not out of vengeance, out of clarity. If they wanted to treat me like an outsider, then I'd act like one. The attorney I hired didn't wear cufflinks or drive a Tesla. He was the kind who spoke plainly and asked smart questions. After 3 meetings and a deep dive into the loan structures, he smiled and slid a page across the table. "Technically," he said, tapping the document, "you didn't gift them anything. You paid off a loan that was never transferred. Your name's not on the deed, but the money? Traceable, provable, enforceable." That was all I needed. The legal notice was clinical. No venom, no dramatics, just facts. Repayment request or court proceedings. Nothing more. The silence that followed was louder than expected. No call from Mom, no text from Dad. But David had plenty to say. 3 voicemails in one afternoon. All fire, all fury. His voice cracked halfway through the second one. "How could you do this to them? To us?" As if I hadn't already done everything. 2 weeks passed. Then a message from their lawyer. Formal tone, carefully worded, a settlement offer. Repayment in full, plus interest. They called it a misunderstanding, offered to resolve it privately. I didn't respond right away. I let it sit for 3 days. Then I wrote 2 words on the reply email. I declined. I didn't chase apologies. I chose permanence. The lien was my signature, not in fury but in precision. No courtroom drama, no shouting match in some sterile office, just a single form filed through the right channels, a quiet keystroke that bound the truth to the future in black and white law. They could pretend I didn't exist. But when the house changed hands, whether from a downsizing, a medical emergency, or just time itself, I would be there. Written into the contract, not out of spite, out of principle. My name, inescapable. My loan, inescapable. The family I grew up in had made me invisible. The system made me unforgettable. Mom sent a card for my birthday. No message. Just her handwriting on the envelope, tight and practiced, like she was trying to remember how to spell my name without thinking too long about why she had to. The inside was empty. No love, no miss you, no we were wrong. Just space, like she hoped the absence of words could soften what had already calcified. I didn't feel sadness. I felt stillness. The kind that comes after a storm you no longer need to survive. I left the card unopened on my desk for weeks. Not out of sentiment, but observation. Proof that even when they reached out, it came without substance, without acknowledgement, without weight. But I had the deed. I had the lien. I had something stronger than memory or forgiveness. I had accountability, signed, notarized, and irrevocable. Because some justice doesn't yell. It waits. It accrues. And then, when the time comes, it answers with interest.